Cast on a number of stitches that you would need for the band, plus one joining stitch and one salvage stitch if you want to make the side edge of the band neater. Align these stitches with the first row of the project so that the needle with the stitches is at the left side of the work. If you plan to attach the band to the right edge of the project, then turn the work so that you are looking at the wrong side of the fabric. If you are attaching the band to the left side of the project, then you'll be looking at the right side of the work. It is easier to attach the band to an edge that's been treated with slip stitch salvages and has those nice elongated stitches at the very edge of the fabric. To make the salvages in this swatch, I slipped the first and purled the last stitch of every row. The first row is going to be the joining row. We insert the tip of the right needle from front to back under both legs of the first salvage stitch at the edge of the fabric. Then we bring the yarn to the back of the work and slip the first stitch of the band from the left needle to the right needle. We do it purlwise like this. Then we use the tip of the left needle to pass the salvage stitch, both legs of it, over the joining stitch, the first stitch of the band, and off the needle. And then we work on the rest of the stitches of the band in any stitch pattern we like. I'm going to do it in seed stitch, that is also called moss stitch in the UK. And because I'm going to treat the edge of the band with the salvage stitch, then I'm going to purl the last stitch of this row. Turn your work. The next row is a plain row. In this row, we're going to work only on the stitches of the band without involving the stitches of the project. So because my first stitch is a salvage, so I slip the first stitch with the yarn at the back of the work, and then I work in my seed stitch, or you can work with in any other stitch pattern you like, but stop when you get to the last stitch of the row, when you get to the joining stitch, and purl this stitch. And then work these two rows again and again. So first we go under two legs of the salvage stitch, then we slip the first stitch of the band, making sure the yarn is at the back of the work. Then we pass the salvage stitch over the joining stitch and work on the stitches of the band until we get to the last stitch. Then purl the stitch if you want to make a nicer edge at the side edge of the band. Turn your work and then work only on the stitches of the band without involving the fabric of the project. But remember that we purl the last stitch. No matter what stitch pattern you choose, you always purl the joining stitch in the plain row. If the fabric of your project is not treated with slip stitch salvages, if you don't have this nice line of elongated stitches at the edge, then you can use the same method to attach the band to every other stitch of the fabric. So let's say we don't have this edge, we have just the stitches of the fabric, and we can attach the stitches, let's say, to this stitch, and then we would skip one stitch and go under two legs of this stitch and skip one, and so on and so forth. But of course, having the slip stitch salvages makes things so much easier. So we go under both legs of that stitch, slip the first stitch of the band, pass it over, then work on the stitches of the band. And we do it until we join every stitch of the fabric to every two rows of the band. And the last row is going to be the joining row, the row when we pass the stitch over the joining stitch of the band. As a result, we get a lovely join that is absolutely flat. There is no added bulk whatsoever. It is elastic and it looks the same on both sides of the work. This seam has a lovely decorative look when the band is made in a different color, and it is almost invisible when both the project and the band are knitted in the same color. To get the full tutorial about this method, go to 10rosesday.com/joining-vertical-band. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.